to our At Lake Rant, where I rant about whatever my $10 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's for Wappinator, who says, rant about Ayreon. I remember you saying you enjoyed them in a previous rant. I just love the idea that he's made this huge interconnected sci-fi story across 8 albums while collaborating with about 100 different musicians to bring it to life. Which albums are your favorite? My favorites are The Human Equation and 010110001, but every album has some great tracks on it. I fall into a similar category. I mean, I really loved The Human Equation, particularly when I was getting into prog. It definitely helped me to like get into different bands. I think I probably found out about them because of the fact that I had found out about Opeth, and that the lead singer of that was, you know, the voice of Fear, I think, on The Human Equation. So I really loved concept albums at the time and stuff that you could really spend a lot of time poring over. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of analysis, and I kind of got my start in analysis with lyrics, where I'd go online and read people interpreting the stories of the lyrics, or I'd read like the background of what it's supposed to be about. You know, in cases like The Human Equation, they had like a full booklet. I bought the CD. It has this enormous booklet, you know, with all the lyrics and descriptions of what's happening in the plot, basically. So, you know, I really appreciate when there's a mega narrative going on, and with The Human Equation, you know, it fits into this greater meta context of the other albums, but it kind of stands on its own at the same time. And I was never able to get into any of Ayreon's other albums as much, just because The Human Equation is such a good idea. Like, just by itself, it's a standalone, super interesting concept, executed very well. You know, I think maybe it is a little overstuffed. Like, it didn't need to be as long as it is. Some of the songs aren't as good as others, but like, it really tries to explore the concept to the furthest extent possible, and I appreciate that. And I spent a lot of like time in high school like fantasizing about making a stage play out of it or something, you know, just visually representing this story, which is largely very abstract and wouldn't be that you couldn't make like a movie out of it, but maybe, you know, like an opera play out of it. But you know, it's just a really fun listen. I love the interplay of all the different emotions and the character, their voices. I think he made great casting choices in representing those emotions. And maybe that's the biggest thing that makes you easy to connect to the story, is that these are all emotions you have. You know, you maybe relate to the way they're portrayed here. But the other albums are much more like abstract and weird concepts, you know, time traveling through the minds of historical figures and shit like that. I had also owned... These albums were also expensive, and at the time, you know, streaming wasn't around yet when I was into Ayreon, so I could only afford to buy a couple of them. And I had bought the album, the Universal Migrator Part 1, I think. Maybe it's Part 1 and 2? Is that a thing? I don't know. The one that has My House on Mars on it, which is probably my favorite track from that album. And, like, yeah, there's a few memorable tracks from that one, but, like, I found a lot of the songs just kind of corny or weird or unrelatable or uninteresting, so I didn't end up listening to that album the same way. You know, I thought My House on Mars had a lot of, like, emotional gravitas, though it is, like, pretty corny anyways. Did you have to fight that war? And what was it all for? You know, like, lyrics like that, they're all over the place, but the concepts behind the albums are very interesting. So, you know, yeah, The Human Equation, by far my favorite. There's good songs here and there, but I was never exposed to as much of it as I would have been had I maybe gotten into the band later on, when, you know, you could easily find their music online. Because those albums were like $18, man, and I did not have $18 when I could just as easily go buy the next Coheed and Cambria album or something for $13, you know, which also has an epic meta narrative between all the albums. So yeah, there's that.